I'm Odedeyi. I run Code Free IQ. And what we do is that we help businesses to actually automate their operations. So basically get into their AI journey seamlessly. So you find out that most businesses are overwhelmed with the level of information that is out there. So our job, or what we do at Code for IQ, is to help them make sense of where their business should actually be on that journey. So we do that end to end by consulting, by building, and then also teaching, more like training the teams as well. So that's basically what we do. I am also a CPD accredited AI trainer that trains professionals globally. Trained, I think, over 500 as we speak globally. And I'm also still learning. Yeah.
Diversified game. Learn how to start, run, and sustain your business.
Awesome. Well, here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey, it's Kellen. And today on Diversified Game, whenever I get to talk about AI, I find it to be such a privilege. I thank Sabrina for connecting me because Sabrina, you've said, I'm not doing interviews right now, but I know some great women who are doing some great things in AI. And I want to, share that with you. And I said, hey, God's perfect timing. Let's do it. So Abby is going to give us the game on what she's building and where she thinks AI is going and why not to be scared of AI, but to learn how to use it to your advantage. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today? From Scotland.
Yeah, from Scotland, from Dunfermline, Scotland. So yeah, lovely to be here. Thanks so much, Kellen, for inviting me. Yeah.
Thank you. And when I looked at what you were building in some of the videos that I saw, you really confirmed something in my spirit when everybody, started, the end user started to be able to use AI. And I said, you know what, we're gonna have like schools of AI prompters. And they're just going to be vibe coding, vibe writing, vibe everything. And then we're going to have the people who know how to put the API keys together. And I like come in doing nothing and you might not know anything. But by the time you leave this school, you are going to get hands-on training. And they are all my companies I'm thinking of and our clients. I might be selfish like that, but unlike school now where you could learn about Shakespeare, but you never use or apply Shakespeare in your real world. Do you think God at this point AI psychosis mad, or what are your thoughts on what the future is going to look like?
Well, I believe that's my own thinking, is that, this dream about everybody talking about the gloom and doom of how AI is going to take over everything. I think the people who will be at the forefront of this journey are people who are not allowing themselves to be scared, but actually getting into the program, trying to understand where it sits in their businesses. So that's basically what I see there. So I, as an individual, when I started my own AI journey, I was looking for someone to help me build an app. And because I've always been on the business side of things, I've been in the fintech space for over a decade, and I wanted to build a tech app and started looking for developers. They started giving me the wild goose chase. I was like, what's happening here? How am I being, tossed from side to side? And then I took it upon myself to enroll myself in an AI boot camp where I learned how to build myself. So I built that app, I put it in the app store. And then when friends, and colleagues saw what I built, they started asking me, oh, could you build this for me? Could you build that for me? So I think one of the things that would help people at this point is not to let their curiosity die. Because the truth is, when you see everything around you it's very easy to say, oh, please just stay by the side or get antagonistic about it. The truth is, it is here. We need to ride the tide and end up being on top. So your curiosity is what is going to help you to be at that very top. So what that happened after that for me was that I not only, built for those friends, businesses started reaching out, and that was what formed Code Free IQ that it is today. So you can imagine, I think everybody should just open up their mind. That's basically what I would say about that.
Okay.
And you're not AI psychotic, I must say. I think the more you open your mind, the more wonders you would see here.
And when I go back to home in California to visit, people tell me, and even my kids have told me here in Florida, they say, but AI isn't good for the environment. And I'm very defensive about that because I say none of this processed food or a lot of things that are going on are great for the environment. And, even with cryptocurrencies, they take energy, they take power, but we do have solar options for different things. What would you say to the people who say, it's not good for the environment and we're sucking up all the water and the resources that could go elsewhere?
I was going to say that the truth is that everything, including the seemingly good things, tend to have their bad side. And I will say that with respect to the environment, I would want to believe that that's why we're having these regulations up and down the place, so as to be able to protect the people. The policies that are being put in place are also to make sure that, these things are not excessively damaging to the environment. So that's why you see things like setting up data centers in certain areas, all those different things are also being used to ensure that we don't go overboard with the damage to the environment. Even what was that? There was something you mentioned some minutes ago that even the crypto stuff and everything definitely had its own, cons as well. Everybody had a lot to say back then, the Bitcoin and all that till date. Yeah, how, it's fraudulent, is this, is that, because I was also in the crypto game then. We hear a lot of stuff. But the truth is, you as a business or as an individual would need to sift through the news or sift through the benefits that it brings to you, and then try as much as possible to also reduce, would I call it, or more like reduce your, what would be that word now? It just went out of my brain. But basically, ensure that you're making the most of it. You're not part of the gloom and doom crowd, because whether you like it or not, it is here. So the best you can do is to ensure that you're making the most of it in whatever way that concerns you, whether it's in business, whether it's in your career, and or yeah. Every good thing still always has its bad side.
And, I know that you can speak more than one language. So if you need to say something in Gaelic, we'll translate it later.
Okay.
Yes, because I know being a Nigerian, but also, it seems from what the research I say, you've been in the UK for a while, but you even have, experience with Scottish dance. So they don't play with you. They don't play with you. And I love to see that when you get videos of, if you have any of that, of you directing and coaching that.
The funny thing is that I actually haven't even gotten into learning how to do the dance. But my children actually, they do a lot of dancing, and also I tend to watch them do that. But the Scottish dance, I definitely would be learning that because like you said, I sit on one of the boards of the Dance Association here in Scotland. Yeah. But I would say that what I've also found, I think, and I'm sure you would, there's this there is this synergy between AI and the arts. And that itself, was one of the things that made my sitting on that board very impactful, because you find that, you know, most of those dances, you see them, on what I call it YouTube now and the rest of them, and then you get very fascinated with it. But there are actually different other ideas that that's come out of other people's perspective that are now being made very accessible via AI at this point. That sitting in that room has actually exposed me to. Do you get? So being sitting on that board as would I call it a seemingly tech person has actually opened me up to, life on the other side, you know, not just the business side now. Okay, AI in business, but what about AI in arts? What impacts, what possibilities actually exist regarding.
Ready to dominate your industry with strategy that actually scales? At Coleman Public Relations and Consulting Firm, we're not just PR experts, we're licensed sports agents certified in AI and elite business consultants with over 2 decades of experience leading global projects across multiple countries. Visit cprfirm.com, that's colemanprfirm.com, and millionairex.ai. Then download the Millionaire X app, your AI powered guide to getting out of debt, investing smarter, and building generational wealth. Coleman Public Relations and Consulting Firm. It's a family business, it's different.
Yeah, I was just saying that I've come to see a lot of possibilities that even within the arts world that AI has actually brought to the fore. That's basically what I was trying to say there. And being able to sit on that board, that's the board of the Scottish Youth Dance, has actually also helped me see the various possibilities that exist within that space. That's the situation.
Okay, okay. And I talked about the Gaelic, but we also, I'm sure you can do some Yoruba too if we're in the market.
Yeah, I speak Yoruba.
Yes. So if it need be. And that's the thing for me with AI and education. And I'm a big I love the thought of the Neuralink to be able to communicate with anybody and everybody and be able to hear, because I've wanted that technology from a kid. And I didn't have the $800 or more for the subpar translator that could do the voice that I would see in the back of the magazine. Where do you
Yeah.
think um, education is going to be impacted, and how is your company able to help? Because we're going to have probably more people who need the help the way things are going and don't understand, because education can be different when you think about even the slow learner or the person with special needs. Now if they're allowed to use AI to catch up, they're going to get information as quick as the person who's at the top of the class perfect. So where do you think education, you're going to be able to help schools and education? I want this to be like your flyer right now. So if we clip this part, they can hear it and say, oh yes, we need to hire her now for the real money. Don't try to lowball this, people.
Okay. I'm going to speak from personal experience because I also have a child that is neurodivergent, and I will just give some examples of how I have been able to use AI to help him, because he's a son at this point. Yeah. So the first is this: we have quite a number of people at different levels of divergency. So you cannot also now do like a one size fits all thing for them. And that's where I see AI coming in. So being that personalized tutor slash IEP or IEP curriculum developer, or what would I call that? That's basically what I see it. So I see it as not just a tutor, someone or something that is able to meet that learner at where they are and then be able to help them learn in the way they are used to learning. Because one of the things that traditional education does is that it gives every one of us, okay, this is what we want you to learn. And then we are all we're all expected to actually follow that line. But with special needs people, you're not able to do that. So for me, what I've been able to do with AI for my own son is be able to let it understand who he is, and then with that, be able to come up with a personalized learning plan for him, and then we follow his pace. Now, I've seen quite a number of tools coming up with that these days, and I have some of those connections on LinkedIn where I see them come up with some of this, very useful things. And because I'm in that situation, I can actually relate. Now, when it comes to teaching people in this AI journey, I also bring that there because you cannot come in and then tell people and start talking about what I call automation and the rest of it when people don't even understand what the fundamentals are. So I am one for teaching people where it hurts them the most, because that way they can find it relatable. And in that instance, you're going to, what the outcome will be for them. It's not so much about the tool. It's not so much about the news out there or what the features are with respect to the tools. It's more about, okay, this business wants their emails sorted. They want to be able to generate leads. They want a situation whereby they can sit down and repurpose their content across different social media platforms. They want to be able, things that actually waste their time. So making it as personalized or people first as possible. When you bring it to that level, to those people you're teaching, then it sinks. And they're able to run with whatever it is you're teaching them at that point.
Okay.
That's basically what I have seen that has worked for me. When I go into those rooms, I'm going in with practical insights, things you can take and run with once you leave the room, and even while you're still in the room. That's how AI can actually be useful to anybody. That's how I say it.
Okay. And I love it because even if there is again a language barrier, or sometimes people need to hear things in a certain, like music, they need to hear it in a certain tone. The reason why some people won't understand, certain language because they or music because they have not sat enough and try to sit down and listen to what country music or what rap or whatever that tone is, because there's so many different variations. So I love that you're saying that. And you guys can go to codefreeiq.com. Links are in the description, and you can book that corporate training for that corporate dollar, because that's always a nice dollar to get. When did you decide I want to build for myself versus just using everybody else's, because a lot of people are just going to white label in tech? This happens all the time with servers, with everything. I used to work for Synology, so it'd always be funny when people say, oh, I have my own server, and then we go deep in a conversation. I'm saying, you're just white labeling Synology stuff or Drobo stuff or AWS. This is not your tech. But when did you decide you wanted to build your own? And can you give the people the best program? Because you've gone from Harvard programs to MBAs. They have to do all of that and get intimidated. What was the best program to learn this? Please give us the game.
Okay. First, I would say that learning is personal. That's something I must say. And for me, what I found is the best way to learn is by doing. So regardless of the number of programs you attend and all, most of all those programs you listed were things that I did back when I was in the fintech world. But what has always resonated with me is actually being able to build while I learn, because that way it sticks. So I would say the University of YouTube is a good place to start, because the truth is you need to understand the basics. Okay, are you able to even understand what AI is? Why does it matter? Then looking at the ethical side of it, the bias, and then now being able to now look at the practical use cases around you before you get into the grind and say, okay, now I want to take it to be, maybe I want to become consultant, or I want to ensure that now I'm able to write code, I'm able to do all these other things. It's more about you using it for yourself first, and then being able to now do it for others. So that was how I started anyway. I started building for myself. Yeah, I could say that even in building for myself, I did part of what you said, where you said, maybe trying to put like a wrapper around certain tools. But what I've come to realize is that taking those tools and just putting a wrapper around them would not solve for the different clients that I work for. So because that worked for me initially, it didn't mean it sustained me. I needed to learn how to actually build systems with the different tools that exist, because different clients usually have different systems. And in that regard, you need to be able to work with what they have, especially when they're not, you don't even expect them to buy every new tool that exists, because maybe you're not used to working with what they have. The idea is to make what they have work as perfectly as possible. So in that regard, it's not just about one tool. It's about building a system around their operations. Yeah, so that's basically what I have found that works. So when it comes to building or buying and all that kind of stuff, for me, I found that off-the-shelf things might not do the work perfectly, especially for the different clients and their systems. So most of the time, I tend to do custom builds for the clients based on their situation at the time. Yeah. So two things. The first thing is learn. The best way to learn is to build and not just go into programs. The program that I attended helped me, gave me a starting point, but I needed to build and keep learning. Yeah. And the way I learned was to ensure that I started following quite a number of people. Sabrina was one of the people I followed as well. So as to be able to, get to know more. So I don't believe that I've gotten to the peak, still on the journey, and I'll still keep learning. And then the second thing is that there's no one size fits all with respect to building or buying. It just depends on the situation you find yourself with the different clients.
Definitely not one size fits all. But what do you think about, you know, I sit on the board for Palm Beach State College, and they're now having an AI program. And the person who was doing the hiring at one point, when they were even talking about it, was saying the hard part is going to get people who actually know what they're talking about, who have the credentials to teach. Because then they say a lot of you tech people are just nerds who figure things out. You break things and you put them back together. But I say for me, I'd rather you know how to build, and I don't care if you know, like a piano player, what the keys are, or when you're doing websites, I don't care if you know what that's called. In case for you, we had somebody trying to take your image, and they're like, "Oh, it doesn't work. You can't." We're Windows people here. You can't right click. I don't, what type of protection? I say it's probably a JavaScript protection, but I don't care if you don't know that term. You know that that doesn't work. And now I'm going to show you how to do the workaround, whether you're an intern or you're working for us. I'm going to show you how we're going to still steal it, because there's nothing I can't have that's out there online. I'm going to get it. I approved it as a file. I'm taking it. So, do you think that an AI degree is going to be worth it versus you just building? Because I love just the builders. Come with a hard hat and ready to learn and work.
The same conversation with friends who, want to enroll in programs, AI programs in the Ivy League schools, just to say, okay, I went for this program, this AI program, and I have this name, behind me. And I tell them that the truth is that what most of those papers give you, fine, it gives you the prestige of paper. But when it comes to talking strategy, talking lessons learned, talking about adoption, AI adoption, change management, and all, you have to be in the game to be able to speak well about the game. And that's basically what I've seen. So for me, if I had opted for, let's say, taking a program in one of the schools and then just settling for just prompting and all, think I would have made this kind of progress. So for me, it has to be a hybrid. So you can get the AI degree, but ensure that you can back it up with some good, street credibility, AI street credibility at this point. Because talking all about it is not where the game is. It's you being able to use it and teaching, not teaching others in the sense of maybe holding a class or something, but being able to impact people with what you've learned is where the benefit, or that's where the big game is. So for me, I would say if I had a choice between both, I would always go to learning and being able to do the work. So I prefer that to actually having a degree in AI. But if I have the best of both worlds, I could do some electives and say, okay, let me just have that on my stuff, maybe like a plaster. But to be truthful with you, I think it's more in the doing. Yeah. So the hard hats you talked about is what really matters to me. And that's what I think most businesses would need. Someone who is able to really go down in the grind with them, and then also still be able to speak with leadership about how the strategy that they've adopted is actually working for them.
Hello, everyone. Join us on an exciting journey with Explore the World Cameroon. London and Sydney go take you explore Cameroon, the heart of Africa. Experience the vibrant culture, nature, and traditions from Yaoundé Market to rainforest adventures. Every page na new discovery. Join the Cameroonian food, music, and wildlife with our explorers. This book na true celebration of Cameroon spirit. Get your copy now. Available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and through your library and bookstores via Ingram's Park. Don't miss this adventure.
Okay. I love that. Here's the difficult question, and maybe you have a very easy answer and experience, but I want to know what have you been able to do to convince, whether it's Nigeria or maybe even other African countries, that your services are needed. If they don't get on board with what you have going on, so you can teach the young people, which Africa has the most young people in the world, they're going to be behind, especially since, the GPUs and everything are, really, they say coming out the West, but I have a whole nother thought process. I won't go deep in that, but because the materials surely aren't coming out the West. That's what I mean by that. And what do you think? Have you had success, getting Africa, getting Nigeria to say, yes, come teach us And if so, let us know, because a lot of times, when it comes to tech, they use us for the minerals. They use us to teach the AI, ask Rwanda and Kenya and other places. But when it really comes into the politricians, those are the politicians, the government, the banks. That's the part sometimes it's hard to convince people. And my only response people have ever told me is because it's harder to corrupt technology, which I think is not true, but they don't know what they don't know.
What exactly is your question in this? I wanted to.
Has Africa paid you for your expertise yet? Or have you even reached out to them yet?
Well, I would say most of my clientele are from this side of the divide, not really Africa. So I've had to do some free workshops, and then some keynote speaking with respect to AI in Africa, in Nigeria to be precise. But going really deep into having to contribute with respect to maybe having a partnership with the government and all that kind of stuff, that hasn't come up. But coincidentally, I think some days ago, someone actually mentioned that they're coming up with an African AI forum, where they're looking to see how people within the industry can actually, that's African professionals and all within the AI space, are able to contribute their quota to the African continent in terms of education, resource building, all those different things. But it's still in the pipeline, and I can't really speak to it because it's not my program, but it's something that I know that quite a number of people are passionate about. So I think going as an individual, you may not make as much impact, but when you come as a group, you're able to influence things, and then maybe at that point you're able to get a foot in the door to really bring about change or some improvement. But I must tell you, like in Nigeria now, I know that quite a number of policies are coming out with respect to AI. And I know that I think Bosun Tijani, that's the Minister of ICT, is really passionate about that. And they've actually been bringing out some kind of programs with respect to that. But other than that, I'm not as involved in that aspect at this point. Maybe through that new program, through the new forum, I definitely would be part of it. But right now,
Okay.
not as much.
Not yet, but hopefully somebody hears this and says, you know what? We need to send the first class ticket for the family, and
That's it. That'll be fun to watch.
yeah. Because a lot of times, like we're seeing reports like 60 Minutes, and people in East Africa are saying, hey, we feel like we're being used and not paid well for training the AI in some very horrific things. And I have some team members in those areas who know so much more and so far advanced, even if they don't have the same luxuries of having internet everywhere they go like we do here in America. You can go to Starbucks, you can go to the grocery store, you can be walking down the street, you still have AI. I have a mobile Starlink that I could take where I want and plug it in, and I have internet. But they know so much more, and not just about, for at least in the West on this side, people think they're a genius because they know how to prompt the AI, but they know nothing about Notion. They know nothing about GitHub. They know nothing about, Superbase. They know nothing. And I'm like, you are an end user at best. And they don't even know that I'm giving what I'm saying. I might as well be speaking Yoruba or Gaelic to them, because they're like, I'm a user. Okay.
But the funny thing about that is that most people, they actually start off that way, and I would say 80% of people stay that way because they tend not to see beyond the possibilities. They tend not to see the possibilities beyond where they are at that point. So I can't blame them. Even when you see these things, when you're at that your comfort zone, you tend to want to stay there, especially if you're not a curious person. If the minimum is good enough for you, then you can stay there. But when you see that, oh, this can actually help me do better with respect to my business, can make me more strategic in my operations, can help me deliver a better user experience to my clients, that in itself will push you. Even if you don't know the super base of this world, or you're not touching anything, you're not touching all those things. But the things that would help you actually get the best outcome from AI, you are dipping your hands in it or hiring people who would, help you put such structures together. Then I'm not sure you would miss much. Yeah, but I think that's where we are as at now. People will tell you a lot about prompting, and if you'll be surprised, anyway, I'm not sure you'll be surprised, because on social media, one of the things that gets people very engaged on any post at all, even till now, are prompts. Yeah. So if you tell them that this prompt will help you to do this, you see them queuing under your under your post with respect to it. So I think we're still in the beginning for most of the people, especially when you look at the data that exists out there.
Well, I've been, again, I told you before, I've been using this and telling people and saying, don't be, left behind. Just try this thing. It's like magic, right? And so to me, it's like we're almost a decade in of where you could license this, as far as I know. But I've also interviewed people here that have been doing it for 2 decades, 3 decades, and they're Black people too. White, Black, it doesn't matter, but they're Black people too, because I don't want people to say, oh, they must have been some white nerd. No, they were a Black nerd who was very successful, and it's because of the work that they built. But in helping those, and I have to use my social work hat now, so because these are gifts from God, sometimes being nosy and leadership, and these are gifts from God. So we never want to look down on people, but for those who do need a little extra help, is there a community give back that you do, or that you would like to do in the future, with your company, with your life, to help others understand it?
It's funny you said that, because sometimes last year I was celebrating a milestone on LinkedIn, and then I decided to do a webinar. And at that point, I think I got almost 1,000 signups then. And I was scared. I was like, what's happening here? This is my first, it was a free webinar. And I just picked a topic around sales, AI sales and all. And quite a number of people also reached out and said, yes, this is the problem they're facing and all. And it's been on my mind to actually do something like that, maybe on a monthly basis. And funny enough, just yesterday, I was also trying to see how to set up something like a meetup, an AI meetup within my sphere, so that it wouldn't look like maybe I'm going, I'm expanding without even starting, So I have that in mind, to actually do something on a regular basis. And one of the first thing I intend to do is to do like a monthly webinar. But before that, right now, I have some free videos. I'm sure you said you checked out some of them on YouTube. And that's just to teach people, where to start, some of the things, the possibilities that exist and all. But what I'm looking at with respect to the monthly webinar is basically to just show people what AI and automation is, what they can do with it, and also try to see how we can, share some resources that they can use immediately. Because it's important to me that it's as practical as possible. Because that's the only way you can get people to use it afterwards. So show them what is possible, and then also show them how they can make it possible for themselves. And then I think one of the things that would help is for people to also, maybe I would put that on the website, for people to let us know what kind of topics they would want to see. I already have some kind of stuff that I had put together, but it would be nice to also hear what people are thinking with respect to how AI would make sense to them. What use cases are they looking at? So I'm always very fascinated with different use cases because you can't see it all. I can see it all. The different operations that people have, excuse me, is what will inform their usage of AI. I'll let you know how it goes. Once I put it together, I definitely will.
Well, and you're a skilled interviewer pulls things out that he wants you to say that he doesn't have to ask. So I wanted you to bring up your YouTube, and I want people to look in the links in the description as well, or even go to your website, because you put time into the YouTube, and I know you use AI, you know, probably for many things, if not all, but there is some great stuff on there to help somebody even just get started, that you can go step by step, and people go subscribe and get those subscribers up, because this game, when the AI, and it's only probably going to go up, when it goes more expensive, that means your prices are going to go up. Get the basic, the foundation now. Where do you think we're going to go as far as prices going higher, especially for the things where, you know, they don't want the AI slop, and they don't want you just spending money on the nonsense, when they get tired and say, you know what, you just can't make stupid videos with AI. It needs to be practical, or we're going to raise the prices. Where do you think these prices could go? Do you think we'd ever be looking at like $1,000 a month for something we're paying 20 or 60 or 100 or 200 for now?
Personally, I don't think so, because it's becoming more commoditized these days. I don't expect that something people are paying. You know, the truth is, when you say, and I'm not talking about you now in particular, I'm talking about when a builder says that the tool is this high, what you find is that someone goes and then looks at what exactly the output is, and then creates something that is similar, if not better, and then on the price the person. So at that point, you have different tools doing the same or almost the same kind of thing, but with different pricing. So depending on where you stand in the market, you would find something that would be suitable for you. So even if we have the 1,000 per month or $1,000 per month products there, just look at the sales tools. There are some sales tools that, you know, you pay as much as a couple of hundreds of dollars per month. You find some you're paying like 600. There are quite a number of them. I just wouldn't mention names there, but quite a number of sales tools that have such pricing. And then on the other hand, there are some other sales tools that are like $20, 30 and all. So it depends on where you're standing in the markets, and if you must have that premium tool to meet your need. If you don't need to have that premium tool to meet your need, then just settle for the one that does what you need at that point. So I don't see the $20 tools going to that price, to like 1,000. They might push it up. Things might happen into the cost of operations and all this kind of stuff, or cost of production might increase, but I don't expect it to now skyrocket, you know. So that's like 50x. I won't expect.
Let me rephrase and ask you another question. You know, once you go up to that other tier in AI and Claude can take all your files and then organize it for you, or Claude can build your site, or you can go on Lovable and do something that you used to cost $25,000 just to start to build an app. Now you can do it for so much lower. Your taste then will go up, and you don't ever want to come down. It's like flying first class. You never in your life want to be in the back of the plane if first class is available.
I get you. I get you. I get you. I get you when it comes to that. However, what I've also found is that every day people are crying that, oh, my usage, as in my usage limit has been exceeded, especially on Cloud these days. So you find out that, most people are using the $20 pro subscription. And you know how it is. When you overuse it, the next thing you see is that they'll tell you you can't use it until 3 p.m. the next day or something. And then you see people crying. But what I find is that no matter how much they cry, they don't actually take the next subscription, which is Max. You don't see them take it. They rather wait or go back to ChatGPT, the free one, and use it for a particular bit and then come back to Cloud. So that's why I said that it depends on how important it is to you to use the premium side of things. If you're using it for a business now, you can't, and then your delivery is time bound. You can't wait for the limits or for the limits to be lifted before you do the work you need to do. So at that point, it starts to make sense if you're going for the premium side of things. But if you're an everyday user, I'll definitely tell you to, your $20 per month will do you good as long as it takes. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you said that because I again going back if you've ever had premium anything, why would you want to go back? And the money that we're spending, I watched the Moonshot podcast, and one of the gentlemen over there is spending $100,000 a month. I said, what is he building? He's MIT trained, and I love everything Peter Diamandis puts out. His new book is coming out, you guys, this month. Go check that out. But it's what are you building? And when you start building, like you were talking about earlier, you never want to go back. It's like watching ad-free TV. For those of you who have built nothing, if you've ever had the ad-free TV, you don't want to see ads. You want to keep moving faster and faster because your neighbor is moving faster and faster, and they're going to map you if you have to wait for an ad. So I could go on for days with you about this, and then we could talk about, when will AI be able to cook fufu and fried fish and grilled fish. But that'll be another topic because I only asked for an hour, and I appreciate your time. But let the people know where they can find you. Any last words? The floor is yours.
Okay. You can actually find me on YouTube, like I mentioned earlier, at Abi Odedeyi. You can also find me on LinkedIn, the same name, Abi Odedeyi. You can find me on my website as well, codefreeiq.com. You'd always see me there. And if it's just for you to come and ask questions, book a discovery call, and I can always just talk you through some of these things. Now, I was just going to say that for me, at this point, there's a lot of hype, but the reality is that outcome-based journeys are the most sustainable at this point. So it's not all about the tools, neither is it about, the systems and the features. It's more about what you use AI to achieve at the end of the day. And to get that, you should start with the boring things, the things that waste your time. That's where you would definitely see the real ROI at this point. Make sure you don't stop learning the deeper stuff, and that is where you would always see the benefits. So It's just it for me. Ensure that you're learning. Don't let your curiosity die because we're just getting started at this point.
I love it. I love it. I love it. You guys are getting the game. This is game that you can use. This is better than the two cats that are fighting that you were doom scrolling, when you woke up. This is something that can actually make you money. Oh, money. And you're going to need it unless you're going to want the UBI services. And I promise you, you're not, because they're going to tell you to stay in your section of town. If you get UBI, you're not going to be able to come to certain, areas. That's just the way the future probably is going. You guys, I hope that you comment. I know most of you are listeners, but please go over to the YouTube and everywhere else that you can see video, like where you can, but most importantly, share this with somebody. Get them prepared now. It will bless their life. You guys, be blessed.
You've tried it your way, but you're still in debt? Or maybe you're doing okay, but want to invest smarter, grow faster. MillionaireX.ai gives you real step-by-step strategies to ditch debt or stack wealth. Stop dreaming and start planning. Visit MillionaireX.ai today. I want you to be the next millionaire next door.
Are you tired of the violence, tired of the injustice, police brutality, rampant discrimination, lack of gun control in this failed biased socioeconomic experiment called America? Or maybe you need a break from the relentless grind and want to regain control of your destiny, your wealth, your health, and your purpose. DiversifiedGame.com has the right course for you. Prepare for my first trip to Africa. Looking to reconnect with your roots, start a new business, or just a fresh start. Africa, aka the motherland, is waiting. Don't let the Chinese and the Mzungus have the fun and also take over the motherland. From Cairo to Mombasa, from Dakar to Cape Town, Africa has something for everyone, from business opportunities to the most amazing people, safety, leisure, and landscapes. The opportunities abound. It is time for the diaspora to reconnect with their roots. Time to reconnect with the birthplace of humanity. Africa is the last frontier. Get your head in the game and reclaim your legacy. The writing is on the wall. Babylon is falling. Give up the stress, grind, and violence inflicted on our people on this continent and prepare for a journey of restoration and joy by connecting with the land of your ancestors. Check out our new course and kick off your adventure at DiversifiedGame.com.